After being reborn, I decided not to entangle with Michael Fu anymore. He said he was going to the county town to take the Gaokao, then return to City A to live. I remained indifferent and wished him success. The Fu family parents, out of gratitude, insisted on arranging for me to work in City A, but Michael complained about my unhygienic living habits, so I moved to the factory dormitory. In the end, he said our engagement would cause a misunderstanding with his beloved. I nodded indifferently and got engaged to someone else on the spot. For this life's test, I chose all the opposite answers from my previous life, just because in my past life, after persistently marrying Michael, he subjected me to 30 years of cold violence. He and his beloved, deeply in love, kept me in the dark. After I learned the truth, he refused to divorce for the sake of his reputation. In the end, I fell ill with resentment and died in despair. This time, I just want to live well and create a world of my own. Later, at my engagement ceremony with my fiancé, Michael pulled me into the attic and said hoarsely, "Alicia, didn't you say you would only love me for a lifetime? Does your promise still hold?" Chapter 1. Captain, the tractor broke down again. We won't finish plowing before dark, and we won't be able to water the fields tomorrow. My father took the dry tobacco handed over by the captain with a bitter expression. In the middle of the field, there was a handheld tractor. Everyone took turns tirelessly cranking it, but the tractor remained deflated. On the wall, the large character's vast world, full of opportunities, were prominently shining. My eyes welled up with heat. I was reborn to the year 1980, before I married Michael. In my previous life, my grandfather arranged a marriage between me and Michael. He was an educated youth assigned to our family. I stuck to him every day. The precious eggs were saved for him, and the fragrant white buns were saved for him. Helped him wash clothes and shoes. Eagerly did the dirty and tiring work, but he didn't have the slightest affection for me, focusing solely on reviewing his books. In my previous life, it was on the afternoon when the tractor broke down. Michael's tall figure cast a shadow over the field ridges. He frowned and said to me, "After attending the Gaokao in the county town, I'll return to City A." I cried and stubbornly clung to Michael, refusing to let go. Desperately followed him back to City A, and as I wished, married him. Looking at Michael approaching from a distance, I just wanted to spit at him. Michael stood before me as if from a past life, frowning at me. "Alicia, after attending the Gaokao in the county town, I'll return to City A." I hadn't spoken yet when my father's voice interrupted. "Alicia, water. Fill the engine." My mind was preoccupied with the tractor, but Michael grabbed me. "Don't worry. Our Fu family always repays kindness. We'll help you arrange a job." I smiled calmly. "The Gaokao is tough. I wish you success." Without the heart to see Michael's shocked expression, I ran forward and handed the water bottle to my father. My father poured the water into the engine, grasped the tractor's crank, and I hurriedly pressed him down with disdain. "Don't shake it too much. It might be a motor failure or a fuel system blockage. If you keep shaking it, it won't be fixable." The strong men around the tractor laughed. "Alicia is mimicking the technician quite well. Ha ha ha. Lee's daughter is so quiet, and today she made a new spectacle. I want to finish plowing this field before dark. Quickly bring the screwdriver and wrench." I looked serious and spoke calmly, more imposing than the town's technician. Dad hesitantly handed over the tools, and I impatiently took them, swiftly dismantled the motor, fiddled with it for a while, and then put it back together. I pursed my lips and turned the crank. Chug chug chug. The tractor emitted an exhilarating black smoke. Chapter 2. Everyone stared in astonishment as I wiped the engine oil on my dad's clothes, calmly sat in the driver's seat, and started the tractor. "Don't worry. The plowing task will be completed before dark." Everyone applauded me. "Old fellow, your daughter is amazing." My dad looked surprised, scratched his head, and chuckled. "Of course. Look at who her dad is." At this moment, Michael was also standing on the ridge, watching me. The sunlight shines on my face as I grip the steering wheel, full of vigor. In my previous life, I didn't waste my time following the master in the military factory. At this moment, a familiar figure appeared at the edge of the field. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized her as Julia, Michael's beloved. Michael, have you finished the work in the cow shed? What are you staring at here for? The production captain's shout drowned out the tractor. Julia raised her head to argue. Captain, his work was always done by Alicia before. The Gaokao is coming soon. These things shouldn't disturb Michael, brother. The captain sneered. I don't care about Gaokao. Alicia is a capable person in our team and can't work for you. Hurry up and leave. Saying this, he went elsewhere to supervise. At this moment, my tractor happened to arrive at this location. Julia pulled a face and waved at me. I originally didn't want to pay attention, but my father still thought I was eager like in my past life, so he quickly stepped forward to take over for me. I jumped off the vehicle, looking impatient. What's the matter? Michael gave me a cold look. The captain said you didn't do the work in the cow shed today. Isn't that your job? I retorted nonchalantly. Michael's handsome brows furrowed. Alicia, how can I hold a book doing such dirty work? Julia glared at me threateningly. If you don't help Michael, brother, I won't talk to you. Looking at Julia's charming face, I recalled the foolish things from my past life. At that time, besides liking Michael, I also liked Julia. She was good-looking, with fashionable clothes and hairstyle, and was a talented girl preparing for the Gaokao. I didn't play with the village girls but treated her as a sister. Michael is first in my heart. Julia is second. All the good things were saved for this couple, but I never expected that Michael and Julia were involved together, keeping it from me for decades. I smirked coldly. Why should I help him? He doesn't give me work points or food coupons. If you don't want to talk, then don't. I don't like talking to you either. Julia was stunned on the spot. In the past, as long as she gave me a look, I would try to please her. Why has it changed today? Julia's eyes instantly turned red, brimming with tears. Michael, brother, look at her, sacrificing your review time for petty gains, not helping you with work. Michael raised his handsome face, glaring at me with anger and said in a deep voice, Julia is all alone, and this is how you bully her? Work points and food coupons. You're simply narrow-minded. I still have to help Julia with her studies. Go and finish the work in the cow shed. It didn't sound like a request, more like a command. Michael, do it if you want. After throwing out those words, I turned to leave, but Julia grabbed my arm. I shook her off forcefully, and with a thud, Julia fell to the ground and burst into tears. Michael was so distressed that his eyes turned red at the corners, and he stepped forward to push me to the ground. Alicia, don't go too far. My head hit the clod of earth behind me, causing a wave of dizziness. He hurriedly helped Julia up, brushing off the dust. How are you? Does it hurt? Watching him and Julia so close, I couldn't help but recall scenes from my past life. In the last year of my life, I saw Michael and Julia holding a child with my own eyes. A family of 3, full of joy. Michael's smile, so bright and warm, was a smile I could never have. As Michael's wife, I endure his emotional coldness every day. I feel like my heart is pierced with countless wounds. Then trampled in the snow. Chapter 3. In the evening, Lee's home. Michael entered the kitchen smelling of cow dung. As usual, he had to go. Otherwise, the captain wouldn't give him food coupons and work points. He glanced at me, and I returned his look with disdain as we passed each other. He asked quietly, Alicia, where's the egg? Yes. Every other day, I would secretly save a boiled egg for him. Warm, fragrant boiled egg. I stepped into the courtyard and loudly said, the eggs from my house are 20 cents each. I'm selling them to buy medicine for grandma. If you want to eat, pay first. Father and mother stood at the door, looking at me in surprise. Michael was furious. You, Alicia, you're just a shrew. I stood in the dark courtyard holding a rice bowl, thinking of the past life. Aunt Zhang's daughter, Zhang Maisie, told her that every other day, Michael and Julia would hide behind the haystack to share an egg. At that time, I didn't believe it. I think Sister Zhang is jealous that I have such a good arranged marriage and such a good sister Julia. But now I understand. He was being rude to me because I didn't give him eggs to help him please Julia. Before slamming the door and leaving, he threw down a sentence, wash the clothes in the basin. I'm going to the county town the day after tomorrow. In the past, without him saying a word, I would voluntarily wash his clothes and bed sheets. But now, I haven't even glanced at that basin. The next morning, Michael with a sullen face grabbed me. Why didn't you wash the clothes? How can you be so unhygienic? It's your clothes, not mine. Julia appeared at my doorstep again, gesturing at me. You're a girl. How can you be so careless? Don't you wash your own clothes? Why not wash them together with Michael S? I sneered. If you love cleanliness, why don't you wash his clothes too? Julia's face turned pale, her lips trembling. I'm a decent girl. How can I wash a man's clothes? Aren't I a decent girl too? I retorted incredulously. You are Michael's arranged marriage partner. Naturally. After saying this, she covered her tear-streaked face and turned to run away. Michael gripped my wrist, his face twisted with rage, as if I had done something unforgivable to him. Next time, if I see you make her cry again, I won't let you off. After saying that, he went after his beloved to comfort her. Julia, don't pay attention to that crazy woman. I rubbed my swollen wrist, with only one thought in my mind. I wish those lunatics would just leave. The farther the better. To stay away from them, I discussed with my parents and moved to the east end of the village to live with the blacksmith's daughter. The blacksmith's daughter is also in her late teens, but her father just passed away. Fortunately, she is strong and knows how to forge iron. No girls in the village are willing to associate with her, and no men are willing to marry her. But having been reborn, I know she is self-reliant and admirable. I work the bellows for her while she hammers away at the iron, and we enjoy ourselves. In the blink of an eye, it's time for the wheat harvest, and soon it will be time for the Gaokao. It was drizzling that day. Michael still came to the blacksmith shop. I splashed a bucket of water, soaking his cloth shoes. He immediately shouted angrily, Alicia, are you blind while working? I retorted, Michael, are you blind while walking? He frowned and sat down in front of me, his clothes emitting a disgusting sour smell. In my previous life, I was infatuated with the soapy scent on him, which I had washed for him. Speak. What's the matter? My brother Stephen is here. He's taking you to work at the military factory in City A, and our arranged marriage. Let's forget about it. I was taken aback. Stephen? Chapter 4. In my previous life, under the arrangement of the Fu family, I went to City A. 2 months later, the fighter pilot Stephen Fu died in a car accident. His dream of flying came to an abrupt end. Unlike Michael, Stephen was noble and elegant, and treated people sincerely. When I was working at the factory, he asked someone to take care of me and even gave me a brand new bicycle. Such a good person must not die. Perhaps because I looked sad. Michael thought it was because of him. Alicia, you don't have to be so sad. I won't marry you, but my family has arranged a job for you. It's a rare opportunity. Unwilling to listen to his chatter, I suddenly stood up and ran out of the blacksmith shop. Running into the house, I was like a drenched rat, water dripping all over me. Stephen, dressed in a crisp military uniform, stood up and smiled at me. He was still the Stephen from the past life who made people feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. Stephen, you're here? Meeting him for the first time in this life, blurting out like that was truly not reserved, but I couldn't care less. My heart was full of the urge to tell him, on September 20th, whatever you do, don't drive. Julia mocked me from the side. What? Michael didn't want to have an arranged marriage with you, so now you're after Stephen? Michael also chimed in. My brother would be interested in her? Stephen frowned and stopped him. Shut up, Michael. Is this how you behave outside? As he spoke, he handed me a towel. Dry your hair. Stephen spoke with my father for a long time and finally decided that after Michael finished the Gaokao, he would take us back to City A. However, the engagement cannot be rushed. We need to wait until we return to the city and see how Michael and I get along. I let out a long sigh. In my previous life, I married Michael firstly because I was persistent with him, and secondly because the Fu family parents were determined to repay my family's kindness. Stephen, when leaving the village, I mustered the courage to step forward. Stephen, can I speak with you privately? Michael chuckled. Are you really going to cling to my brother? Julia sneered. I didn't expect you to fall in love with everyone you meet. Stephen gave them a stern look as a warning and led me to the roadside. Alicia, what do you want to say? I frowned. Serious and earnest, I urge you to always remember to drive safely. He smiled and patted my head. All right. Thank you, Alicia, for the reminder. See you next time. After Stephen left, rumors about me began to spread in the village. The captain took me to repair the tractor. And someone laughed. Alicia, Michael doesn't fancy you. And now you're interested in his pilot brother? Alicia can't get the swan. So now she's after the plane. Ha ha ha. Needless to say, these were all rumors spread by Julia. But having lived another life, I am indifferent to these rumors. I live for myself, not for what others say. Truly wise people will not be led astray by others. The captain, with hands on his hips, shouted on my behalf. Can't chew your tongue enough. Earned enough work points? Ate too much? Keep talking about these baseless things. And if Alicia doesn't repair the tractor for the team, I'll never let it go with you. He nodded at me again and said, I heard that after the Gaokao, you're going to follow them to City A. So what will we do if this tractor breaks down? I wiped the engine oil off my hands and smiled. Captain, don't worry. I know the issues with this tractor. I'll write a maintenance guide for my dad, so he can fix it according to the notebook. Chapter 5. The captain was full of surprise. Girl, how come I didn't know you could repair and write? The old Lee's home really has produced a fine offspring. That night, I wrote the maintenance notes on the back of my brother's notebook. I worked hard for several days and nights, intending to hand it over to the captain, but the notebook was nowhere to be found. I was rummaging through the room when Julia walked in with a few female-educated youths. Alicia, are you looking for this broken notebook? Give it back to me. I stepped forward to fight for it. Those female-educated youths pinned me down, cursing with foul language. Michael, staying at your house is one thing, but you dare to make a move on Stephen? With a slap, Julia hit me across the face. Her beautiful face twisted like a witch's. Do you think going to City A makes you a city person? Dream on. She picked up the repair notebook that I had been working on for several days, and I was suppressed, only able to watch helplessly as she tore the notebook to pieces in front of me. Page by page, the farce wasn't over yet. Michael suddenly appeared. Julia, what are you doing? Julia's vicious face immediately turned weak and pitiful. Michael. She was making up things about tractor repairs. I was really afraid she would ruin the village's tractors. So I tore up the notebook. Michael looked at the red marks on my face and my disheveled hair, gave me a disdainful glance, and said lightly, Julia, you did well. But after all, this is in the village. Don't make too much of a scene. Watching him walk away, Julia looked at me smugly. If you dare to get close to Stephen again, you and this notebook will meet the same fate. There are no extra pens or notebooks left. The previous pencil stub is already as short as it can be. I wiped away my tears and cleaned up the fragments on the ground. I decided not to write anymore, and every day I circled around the tractor with my father, imparting all my knowledge verbally. The Gaokao finally ended, and I rolled up my bedding and went to the county town, waiting for Stephen at the school gate. Michael and Julia walked out of the exam hall together, looking at me arrogantly, as if they were already the pride of the heavens. Finished the exam? Come on, get in the car. I'll take you into the city. Looking towards the sound, it was Stephen. He walked up to me and helped me pick up my tattered luggage. Don't just stand there. Get in the car. The car drove for several hours and finally arrived at City A. The car stopped in front of a small alley, dropped off Julia, and eventually drove into the military district compound. I looked at the familiar Fu family villa in front of me and turned to Stephen. Didn't you say you arranged a job for me? Can I stay in the dormitory? I don't want to see Michael. Michael coldly said, What? Isn't this the life you've always dreamed of? Now that it's within reach, you don't want it? Are you playing some kind of cat and mouse game? You really have a lot of tricks. I was about to argue. Stephen advised, Alicia, it's too late now. I'll take you to the military factory tomorrow morning. However, even if you enter the factory, you can't stay in the dormitory. You must live at home. Trust me. He carried my tattered luggage, settled me in, and brought new bedding. 2 sets to alternate. He said this to protect my dignity. My worn-out bedding was completely unusable. Watching him busy himself for me, I picked up the calendar beside me with a heavy heart. The current date is July 10th, and there are exactly 72 days until September 20th. I have to remind him every day, Stephen, be sure to drive safely. But I also don't know if I can prevent this car accident from happening. Chapter 6. He smiled helplessly. Alicia, comrade, please rest. The next day, I finally returned to the military factory again. In my previous life, it was here that I learned various skills. Unfortunately, I was not very bright and spent too much time revolving around Michael, delaying many important tasks. Just like in my previous life, Stephen took me to meet the factory director, who then took me to the workshop. When I turned to the equipment maintenance department, I saw my beautiful and hot-tempered master, Liu Yuxiang, through the window. I rushed up and gave her a big hug. Master, I miss you. She looked at the factory director in confusion. Where did this wild girl come from? Jumping on people as soon as she meets them? Is she a dog? I wiped my tears. Yes, I am indeed a dog. Master was amused and exasperated, and accepted me as a disciple on the spot. Just like that, I began my life commuting between the factory and the Fu family's small villa. That evening, Stephen gave me a brand new bicycle. Alicia, comrade, it will be convenient for you to ride a bicycle to work from now on. I touched the shiny handlebars, tears welling up in my eyes, filled with gratitude. At this moment, Michael remarked from the side, she's just a country girl who can't ride a bicycle. Give this one to me, and I'll give it to Julia. It's inconvenient for her to go out. Julia just happened to be visiting the Fu family and chimed in with a cheerful smile. Yes, Stephen, lend it to me for a few days, and I'll return it to you. I grabbed the bicycle and said, who says I can't ride? With that, I got on the bicycle and skillfully rode a lap. Stephen applauded me and reminded Michael, Alicia is our family. You can't treat her like that. Michael covered the amazement in his eyes and said, what kind of family is she? Her shabby luggage has already dirted our house. Stephen still wanted to persuade me, so I immediately said, Stephen, I will definitely take good care of this bicycle. In the future, when I earn money, I'll pay you back. Master said that the early stages of learning are intense and demanding, so I should stay in the dormitory. But I think I should move out, Michael remarked. Quite sensible, with no other choice. Stephen agreed. Finally received my first salary of 20 yuan. I bought a diary, wrote down the tractor maintenance details, and rode my bike to the post office to send it home. At the entrance of the post office, I unexpectedly ran into Stephen. It turned out that the Gaokao results were out, and he brought Michael to the post office to wait for the university admission letter. Stephen glanced at the notebook cover and saw the words tractor repair. He took it and flipped through it, surprised yet delighted. Alicia, did you write this? Is this your handwriting? I nodded, feeling a bit ashamed. In my previous life, Master was so frustrated trying to teach me that he nearly burst a lung. Our Alicia is quite the talented woman too, Stephen said with a smile. For some reason, whenever I see his smile, I am reminded of that car accident, and tears well up in my eyes. Michael, brother, I didn't pass the exam. What should I do? Not far away, Julia's crying could be heard. Michael was patiently patting her back. It's okay. I'll tutor you this year. You can definitely do it. Seeing this couple made me feel sick, so I grabbed my notebook and went into the post office. After coming out, I found that Stephen hadn't left yet. I thought he was waiting for Michael, but he grabbed me. Come on, I have something to tell you. At this moment, Michael frowned at me. Bro, we still need to take Julia home. Stephen said stiffly. Not me. Just you. Julia, with eyes like walnuts, glanced at me. Michael, brother, Stephen still has to take care of others. I can walk back by myself. Michael pointed at me angrily. Alicia, you really have some skills. You've actually made my brother interested in you. His voice was quite loud, and the people around waiting for the notification all looked over. Chapter 7. The female educated youths who bullied me with Julia last time also gave me hostile looks. Stephen stood in front of me. Michael, you bastard. We are Alicia's family. Why are you helping outsiders target her? Saying that, he turned around and took me away. Michael watched the backs of Stephen and me, wanting to say something but hesitating. Stephen asked me, "Do you want to take the Gaokao?" In my previous life, Master asked me the same question, but at that time, I was constantly pestering Michael and had no interest in the Gaokao. However, just now, I saw the admission letter in Michael's hand and felt very envious. Can I do it? Stephen seemed more confident than I was. Of course you can. You applied for the mechanical engineering major, and you're attending a tutoring class outside. Your English foundation is weak, so I can give you extra tutoring. I hadn't even had time to think when that afternoon, he took me to register and even lent me the registration and book fees. I didn't know how to thank him enough, so I asked him anxiously, "Stephen, can you spend a day with me on September 20th, which is a weekend?" He was always cheerful and generous, but at this moment, he blushed. It settled then. From then on, my living spaces were only the dormitory, the workshop, and the tutoring class. Stephen came to the tutoring class to meet me every time to save my time and helped me with my English. Life was busy yet orderly, and I felt that a new life was beckoning me. September 20th finally arrived. I arrived at Fu's front door at 6 o'clock, because I wasn't sure if Stephen would go out for a run or drive far away to buy soy milk. I wanted to ensure that he was safe and sound the entire day. I waited for a long time. Julia finally arrived. She carried fried dough sticks and buns. Looked at me smugly. "Alicia, you really have no shame at all." The young aunt who got up early opened the door to let us in. Michael looked me up and down. "You really have become my brother's clingy plaster." Stephen stopped him from the side. "What she wants to do is her business. It's not for you to judge." Michael gave a cold smile. "Stephen, let me tell you, when I was an educated youth in the countryside, she treated me the same way, saving good food for me, washing my clothes, and helping me with the dirty work in the cow shed. She couldn't see hope in me, so she turned to you. You're just my substitute." Seeing Stephen raise his hand to hit him, I quickly held him back and gently shook my head at Stephen. Because Michael wasn't lying. I used to be like that, and what I'm doing with Stephen now, in the eyes of others, does indeed seem like I'm clinging to him, but I don't care about anything anymore. Today's mission is to ensure Stephen is safe and sound. Today, I'll stay at the Fu house and go nowhere else. Please help me with a day of tutoring. I looked at Stephen with determination. Julia chuckled. I've seen a lot in my life, but never someone with a face thicker than a city wall. Stephen gave her a cold glance and said to me, "All right, I'll help you." Julia's face changed, but Michael wasn't having it. "You promised to take me and Julia to the suburbs yesterday." "Going to the suburbs? Doesn't that require driving?" I was so anxious that my eyes turned red. "Stephen, please don't drive today." "Why?" Michael grabbed my wrist in a panic. Stephen opened his hand. "You can take the bus yourselves. I'll help Alicia with her review." Julia was anxious. "Stephen, Alicia is notorious in the village, yet you still defend her." It was not surprising for such words to come from her mouth, but when I was suddenly attacked like this, it was as if my hands and feet were frozen by ice water, unable to move. I only heard Stephen say, "Julia, our Fu family does not welcome you. Please leave." Chapter 8. The entire day, Stephen stayed in his room with me, reviewing. He showed not the slightest impatience. After 8 o'clock, I requested to stay overnight at the Fu family home, and he exclaimed with delight, "Sure, I'd be more than happy." I was in the guest room, enduring as the clock struck 12, deliberately walked downstairs, making a lot of noise. Stephen came out of the room, stood on the stairs, and looked at me. "Thirsty or hungry?" confirming he was safe and sound. I silently smiled. "I'll pour a glass of water." Having safely passed September 20th, I returned to my intense study and work, until one day, Julia appeared at the military factory. It turned out that she failed the Gaokao, reviewed for a while, saw no hope, and gave up. Michael arranged for her to work as a female worker in the packaging workshop. At the end of spring, the military factory district held an employee skills competition. I represented the equipment workshop in the final gold award evaluation. However, Julia, despite being slow and having poor packaging quality, also made it to the Gold Award evaluation round. At noon, Michael came to me. Alicia, your performance today was indeed excellent, but Julia needs this Gold Award more than you do. I crossed my arms and looked at him coldly. And the reason? With this Gold Award, Julia can secure an office job and won't have to do the hard work in the workshop anymore. She's physically weak, unlike you, who are strong and capable. I chuckled softly. What will I get then? Michael was just negotiating, but now his face changed. The Fu family has already arranged a job for you. What more do you want? I found it amusing and pretended to be sincere. Don't worry, I will definitely cooperate well in the afternoon's evaluation. But that afternoon, I performed at my usual level and received the well-deserved Gold Award. In this life, Master can finally be proud of me. After the evaluation, Michael supported the sobbing Julia to confront me. Why did you deceive us? Stephen came over from the side. Michael, do you think others don't know your tricks? And you still come to question Alicia? Everyone present heard Stephen S. shout and looked at Michael and Julia with strange eyes. They had no choice but to leave dejectedly. In the blink of an eye, it's another year of the Gaokao. After a year of tutoring, plus the foundation from my past life, I am very confident about this Gaokao. Walking out of the exam hall, Stephen leaned against the car, spirited and handsome. Let's go. My parents have returned from the south, and they want to treat you to dinner. Stephen brought me into the house, only to see Uncle Fu and Aunt Fu with gloomy faces, and Michael and Julia were not very happy either. Presumably, something has already happened before we returned. After taking a seat, Uncle Fu mentioned that my grandfather saved his life back in the day, and then he talked about my arranged marriage with Michael. Michael, how about it? After spending this time together, do you still hold the same opinion as before? That's right. Very well. Michael indeed refused. This engagement is settled then. This way, Julia won't misunderstand me. He looked at Julia gently. Aunt looked at me with embarrassment. Alicia, what do you think? I smiled. Then I wish Michael and the person he loves a long and happy life together. Seeing that I showed no hesitation or reluctance, Michael's happiness was also reduced by half. But at this moment, Stephen stood up, took my hand, and said, Dad, Mom, since everyone is here, I might as well be straightforward. Alicia and I are getting engaged. What? Michael and Julia almost asked simultaneously. Chapter 9. I also looked at Stephen in surprise, but he didn't let go of my hand. Didn't we agree yesterday? Are you going to back out today? He scratched my palm, and I responded with an oh, yes, please. Uncle and Aunt, give us your blessing. Fu uncle and aunt were very happy. Good, good. This way everyone is happy. After the party, Stephen pulled me to his room. He lowered his eyes and said, I didn't mean to make things difficult for you. I just can't stand him bullying you. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and said, I understand. I won't take it seriously. Stephen's face suddenly became excited, and he grabbed my hand. No, you have to take it seriously. And make it real. Why? I asked in a muffled voice, with my head down. Because Michael will still mock you, suppress you, and I don't want that. I ran out of Stephen's room in a panic, but accidentally bumped into Julia at the door. Julia immediately clutched her stomach and sat down on the ground, with bright red blood flowing from under her skirt. She had a miscarriage. Was she already pregnant? Michael held Julia in pain and cursed at me. Alicia, is this how jealous you are that I like her? You actually killed our child. Stephen said, let's go to the hospital first. Things aren't clear yet. Don't make baseless accusations. The whole summer, I waited for the Gaokao results in peace with Stephen's company. My hard work was not in vain. The bright red, scorching acceptance letter finally arrived. I showed the acceptance letter to Stephen, and he held it tightly in his arms. Alicia, I knew you could do it. Just as I was excitedly preparing to go to university, the newspaper published a story about me pushing Michael's fiancée Julia, causing her to miscarry. In the factory, someone pointed at me behind my back, and she calls herself a college student. With such a strong sense of jealousy, Because of this incident, people from the university came, saying they wanted to investigate me and might revoke my admission. I felt as if struck by lightning. A year's hard work was about to go to waste. When at a loss, Stephen brought a set of photos to the investigators and asked them to keep it confidential. In the photos, there were pictures of Julia and a fat old man in a suit entering and embracing in a hotel guest room. Therefore, her child is very likely not Michael's. So, she used my strength to have a miscarriage, which not only gained Michael's sympathy but also ruined my reputation, truly killing two birds with one stone. Unfortunately, all of this was exposed by Stephen. Stephen secretly gave the set of photos to Michael again. Julia never appeared at the Fu family again. As for Michael, he was never the same again, shutting himself in his room all day, even skipping school. The engagement party for Stephen and me was held as scheduled. Michael stood from afar in the crowd watching me. My gaze swept past him and finally landed on Stephen. Stephen, from now on, I will take it seriously. He lowered his head and smiled. Then you're taking it seriously later than I did. I was serious long before you. As the evening banquet ended, Stephen went to see the guests off, and Michael seized the moment when no one was around to pull me up to the attic. With reddened eyes, he said to me hoarsely, "Alicia, didn't you say you would only love me for a lifetime? Does your promise still hold?" I smiled and pushed him away. That was a long time ago. Don't take it seriously. He squatted on the ground dejectedly, like a deflated balloon. I walked down the attic, held Stephen's hand, and moved towards my new life.